shit, I'm not ready.
Yeah. All right, the stream should be live right now. We've got Roger on the other line. He's going to be here at the conference call. We weren't all able logistically to get in the same room, so we're doing this just as a live stream from different places. We know Anthony in Chicago is supposed to be calling in. I've extended the invite to all of the negotiating committee. We'll see if who else can show up. But Roger's on the other line right now. If you want to say hi, Roger.
Hello, everybody.
I just posted a link to the to all the files that we're going to be using. I got them from teamsterair.org. If you look on the email, also on Facebook, you can get these files. Letter from Dave Bourne, the LOI, regarding the ratification. Basically, all the stuff you're going to be getting in the mail. They're telling you all the files they have. Also, just the rundown of the proposed changes summary, their little status sheet. I got a copy of the failed TA. Also, the economic overview, so we can review what's in there, and then their examples page that they put out. Those are the files I'll be using. I guess most of the files I'll be using today. So I've got a copy of the failed TA up. I'll scroll through it. I'm going to be very brief on these talking points in the failed TA. You guys all attended the roadshow that we did last year with all the changes. But some of the people were concerned about the changes. Pretty much all the changes that were in there are still in there. If they're not in there, or there's a change to that from the failed TA, that's what's in the status sheet to let you know that those things have changed. But I was just going to do a quick recap of some of the changes that are in there that we need to make sure we pay attention to. Article 2 scope was some of the guys had issue in that when we did the roadshow. That language stayed from the TA while continuing to have covered work group perform the work it has customarily performed. That language stays in there. Additionally, Article 3 change was Southwest shall make all material and irrevocable condition of any transaction establishing a new Part 121 carrier. That language stayed, that change stayed in there as well. Article 4.2 was where they added the kitting and the staging areas, and also they crossed out the GSE language and crossed out the Tampa and Orlando language, the road trip language between those two. Article 5.15, they added the language to allow the company and the union to jointly review bid locations. Now that was language that was during the TA when we did the roadshow. The union expressed that the company had made the agreement that language strictly meant just to add bid locations. Later on in negotiations within the last year, we tried to get the company to put that in writing so we could put it in the contract. That was actually something that the company wasn't willing to do, and now they believe that language is intended to determine if there's a need to do away or add those bid locations. They wouldn't put it in writing the other way around. So I think the union had a difference of opinion on what that meant, but the company came back and said no, it means that they can add or delete. So yes, after a year they could decide that we don't need this bid location and do away with it. That was Article 5. That was a change that we did. So Article where they also added the Atlanta and Orlando, the tool room. The company did not indicate that it would add an additional tool room person since they already received one. So even though if this TA passes where it says that they add an additional tool room personnel, but since they've already added one before this contract anyway, in the current bid, there's a position for tool room. So they're saying they're not going to add another one. They're not obligated to add another one. It says that they'll add one. That's one. They also crossed out the GSE language, and they added kitting and staging stores, or kitting stores. Added shop for Dallas only. Also added staging, Dallas, Houston, Chicago, Phoenix, and then added staging and stores in Atlanta only. Article 8, 9, they gave away the international field service language. Where are we at here? Sorry, I don't think I was scrolling through this enough. Yeah, 8, 9. That's where we the international language. Well, we didn't have international language, but they made sure that they're not obligated to send us internationally. So this language pretty much gives away international language. We didn't actually have international language. Nothing said they were required to send us there regardless, but now they are not. Also, article. Let's see. I'm not going over these simple changes that happened. If there's a small change in the agreement, like wording and stuff like that, I didn't worry about that. But the next change that was in there that after 8.9, the international was 11.7, where they modified the 24-hour vacation. For the 24-hour vacation request language. And Article 14.11, we crossed out the longevity language. Obviously, we know that's all going away, so anybody that's topped out will be losing $2 an hour. And then the new pay scale shows that that's what your pay will be without longevity, because longevity will not be added to your scale. Article 22.1 with the arbitration language, they allow basically a 3-person panel instead of a single neutral panel. Article 23.12, they added language clarifying the LOIs and verbals are not considered discipline. So that was just a quick recap on what we had for the last TA when we voted it down. Those were pretty much some of the major changes. I know you guys sent a lot of questions, and we're going to go over those, which answer some more of other changes that were in the TA. We'll kind of address those as well. I'm hoping you guys are going to be able to hear Roger. What we're going to do now is kind of go over the file that was created from the negotiating committee and explain that a little to you. So I'm going to let you have Roger now. Go ahead, Roger. It's yours.
Hello, everyone. So on the, just wanted to make sure everyone knew that this is not a definitive agreement that you're voting on. What the company did the last month. The third page down, second page down, the pay scale we voted on.
You're actually quite low, Roger.
This is the information that you heard that we saw from the company. Is better? Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay. So this is the numbers that we got from the company. Now this is not what the company has sent out for us to vote on. The numbers have changed. So I'm in the process of working on an updated version of this list if anybody needs a copy of it. The numbers aren't off too much, but it might have some effect on the totals that I can come out with. The next page would be the annual income for 2080 hours. And basically what I did is I just multiplied what the rate that the company has, and you can do this on your own with what the company sent you, and you can see what your annual pay is going to be, if that's something that you were interested in seeing. Basically, I put this chart together. We put this chart together for you to be able to see percentage-wise and monetarily how much of a difference in pay the TA was to what the company was offering us at the time that I put this together. The differences in what they rated. So on the next page, you see the difference between the 4.1 2007 pay scale, which was our failed PA, and the new pay scale that I had on 329. Basically, the company was giving us an 8% raise. What they did is or what it looks like to me that they did is they took one of the years out of the pay scales and moved it over by 1 year. So that now most of the pay scales are jumping up by 8% more, around 16% is what the rate is. And on this page right here, I kind of gave everybody, so everybody could kind of see the difference between how much it was between the scales. Now, some of the steps are a little bit less. The year 8 is 8.5%. If you go down to year 11 on the grandfather step, you can see that the increase there is only 3% rate. Difference between the PA and the new scale. So on the next scale that you go up, and let me point out something. Go back on that one, Joey. Let me point out something. Some of these numbers that you see in red, the company had agreed to do a bump up, true up, or even move people around on the scale to kind of, I think there was only a few people that there was a difference between. And I'll have a chart later on showing that how many people there are and where they are in the steps. The difference in anniversary raises for the non-top down employees. So this basically shows what your pay will be when you go from an anniversary raise from your first year of service to your second year to the third year, fourth year, so forth down. So on the current pay, you can see that everybody's getting about 9.5%. And then on the DOR pay, everybody, let me see, actually it's pretty close to this, 10%. There was only a few cents differences. So what the company did is they decided, well, we discussed putting in the longevity into the pay. And since the newer people did not have the longevity until the 9th year, we thought that would be something that would be beneficial to them and hopefully to the senior people also. But what happened was the company decided that, or the way the negotiations went was that they weighted this thing more toward the people that were 2 to 8 years. I don't think we have anybody in the 9th year that's non-grandfathered. I mean, yes. So this looked really appealing to the newer people. And this is where the $2 comes in 9 years that we're going to go through the scale. You're going to get an extra percent, and by the time you get to the end, that extra 8% that was the $2 longevity raise is going to be incorporated into your pay. And then the lower ones are for each year, 19, 20, 21, 22. If this is where the end, those will be the years that they'll be going. And that's what the drop downs will be for everyone on the scale. All the grandfather people will be in 9, and anybody we hire new and anybody now that's less than 9 years will have one of these raises on an anniversary rate. The dollar amount is basically what I have here. Of course, again, they're going to be a little askew because of the mouse round. The Jeff. Oh, Jeff. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Jeff, we're live on that. Yeah, we're live right now.
Right. Sorry about that. I've been gone. So the difference between TA1 and 329.18 for the grandfathered employees would be the next slide. And this is going to show you the differences in the pay going across.
We're page 7, correct,
again,
Roger?
This should be page 7, yes.
Okay, we're on page 7.
Is this your stuff, Roger? Yes. He's showing everybody on the live feed right now. Okay. So this is what I have for the grandfathered employees, and this is showing what the TA percentage would be, and then what the new offer would be. The percentage changes. On the next slide, I have the Southwest Airlines dollar amount change. Of course, there's going to be a little variation. I will definitely make a new presentation of that. Something that I would like to point out that actually on this one right here, you can see the dollar amount raises that the CA had were less than $2, about $1. I think the 9th year person was going to jump pretty good. On the data ratification, now you have from the 4th year to the 9th year, you have substantial raises coming in. And then you can see the differences in the yellow between the dollar amounts between the CA and the new one. And then, of course, the next section of the chart shows what your raises are going to be each year after that. So the first big raise, the big raise you're going to get is for the last 5 years or so that it's going past. If you look and see the year 2 through 9 are getting an awesome raise. We have the grandfather employees 8 through 21, they're going $3. They're also getting substantial. I mean, the raises look dollar-wise not too bad, but consider the fact that it's been 5 years since we've had a raise. I broke the next chart down, and I will have to say that on the leads here, and we'll get to the slide later on, and I'll explain what happened with that. And the next one is the cost breakdown. So I took the seniority list that I was provided from the company, and put all the employees, I put all the employees' years of service in there so we could see the material specialists and lead by years of service where they are. I got a total on the side, and then I showed how many leads, grandfather, non-grandfather, and how many material specialists. We do have 5 of us that are in the police program. I'm not exactly sure where they fall in how they fall in the scale situation. But on the bottom, I've also added up and shown what the dollar amount would be to the company for the existing employees that we have going forth. Now, I would have no idea how many people that they're going to hire or they plan on hiring. And even though I did say on the slide above that they were substantial raising, I do need you to keep in mind that that was the raise that you're going to get for 5 years of service that we didn't have raised. Now, I'm only speaking to the people that are in the top out now. Everybody else that's going through the steps have been getting raises. Some of us have only been getting 10 raises. Some of us are getting a 9.5% raise drop down. So the next slide that comes down would be slide 10. This is what 3% a year would look like if we had been getting all the duration negotiations. And I did put longevity, even though it says this is not including longevity, the purple part of the slide shows in the top out people what their longevity would be. So what I have here is I have the difference between the senior person that's topped out and a lead that's topped out. The senior person is missing 8%. There's a difference of 8%. Which would be basically your $2 being pulled out. And the lead is actually this one's a little off because no, it's still going to be 31, 33 because that was the DOR pay, and that one's 7% off. So a lead, topped out lead is $2 longevity being brought in is going to be a difference of $2.20, so 7%. The next slide going down is the 3% raise for the leads. Well, this is the one that I need to correct myself on because this is an issue that we did have with the company. We did bring it up. There was no interest at the time to change it. After we told them that we weren't, that our second proposal, or our proposal that we sent back to them, they said that was it. There was no more face-to-face negotiations. We were under the assumption that we were going from the 329 offer, the one that they emailed everybody out. If you look at that proposal, you can see that the lead pay was the numbers that I have reflected on this chart. On the new chart, they've actually fixed 3%, and the value of the leads pay actually reflects this now. So in year one, what I have done for, and basically if you look at the yellow section, that's minus, they actually gave us one extra penny, and 35.27 is what's on their offer now. So that was something that was fixed. And so the next couple of slides are something we put together for you guys. We wanted to make sure that everybody remembered the value that we bring to the airline, the responsibilities that we have, on a daily basis, millions of dollars worth of tooling and parts that we bring in from vendors. We stock them, we inventory them, we pull them, and we send them out every night to airplanes. Right now we have over 700 aircraft. We're only going to be getting bigger, and our job is only going to get more and more important. I mean, it's already important. We do the verification of the parts. We take care of all the stocking, the calibration, the inventory. We have management processes that we're responsible for, NPM compliance, downline trips, and of course the required CBP, operational procedure and safety. These are some of the scope issues that we believe are something that needed to be addressed. So that this list here hasn't, of course you can, I think this has been posted so everybody has an opportunity to read it.
Yeah,
Other items some of the items that the committee said we would like to have an opportunity to readdress was mandatory overtime language. The fact that we have hybrid stations when we never had hybrid stations before. Leads assigning work by seniority. The mechanics performing on tasks at all line locations. Of course, international language. The new trainers that are be added by bid location classification instead of having a swipe point through. Ensuring that we have additional bodies in lieu of the USP trade. And the annual review language, have clarification, to have clarification on. And of course, the last slide. Well, Joy, if you wouldn't mind, go back to the last step off. Well, let me just say on the fact that one of the things that we did as a negotiating team is after the SBA, we went in and we were directed to try to find something that would get this done quick. And so we did the survey and we pulled up a few items that we thought would happen that we might be able to get some kind of resolution on. We were hoping for a little bit more monetary value in the things that we were giving up, i.e. GSC, and Joey's going to speak on that later. And for the fact of the things that we do, I mean, the stuff that we're responsible for every day. So that leads us to the last IBT pay scale. This was the scale that we requested. And basically what we did is we moved, if you look at the years of service, the pay scales, we basically just moved it over a couple of years out to cover the amount of years that we've been in negotiations and compensation for what we believe we're giving up. And this is the pay scale that we last submitted to the company and the annual amounts that were there. And the IBT pay scale amounts, take your time, print, if you have an opportunity, print the first one, or actually wait till I get the new ones out and compare them, put them next side by side and see which one you like. Of course, I will say that the only one that's guaranteed is if you vote the contract in, we're still going to have to go back into negotiations to work on an opportunity to get you this pay scale. But this is what we believe should be compensation for what we have and what we do. And you can go down to the next slide, Joey. I believe it's slide number 17. That's the one that shows. That's the one that shows how much it's going to cost the company. Again, I can't even guess how many people they're going to hire in the next few years. But this is the people as they move down the scale. It's going to cost the company. Now, it's been a quick refresher on this thing with the good numbers. And what it looks like to me, and the money that we add is going to be for 2000 for the data ratification. It'd be $981 plus $1,000. In 2019, it would add 1.04 in 2020, 1.1. In 2022, 1.2. And 2021, 1.2. In 2022, almost 2.5. For a total cost over the company for the 5 years, $5.5 million. That average out to be about $1.1 million. Is what our ask is over what the company offered us. Now, keep in mind that I believe the company's offer is right here, 20, just regular working hours. We're at 14.3 right now, $1 million. The DOR would be 16.1. The next year after that would be 17.2. The next one, 18.3, 19.4, and $20.5 million is what they've already committed to pay for the members that we have now. Down in the Chicago Midway.
All right,
Anthony, we're live.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
if you guys hear some of the committee members are just joining in, Jeff Astrauss out of Phoenix is on, and Anthony Kroick out of Chicago is on now as well.
We're to the 300, boys. How we doing?
Actually, there's 322 of us now. So, and then that's the last one, Joey. The last slide is, that's something that really doesn't need to be addressed. Right
on. Hey, so you guys, that was a explanation of the file that we put out on the email chain. I sent that out I think last night or the night before last. But as you heard Roger say, that these numbers are going to be a little off, just because the scale that was presented to us when we first started. I apologize for that. Anyway, so when we first started doing this, and the numbers that were given to us back in March, that these were the numbers the company proposed to us, so we never saw the numbers that they put out now. But the scale you're voting on now is actually, if you look at the status sheet that the union posted on teamsterair.org, the bottom of that actually shows the correct scale and what you'll be voting on. And those scales that we put together as a committee, when Roger gets done running those numbers, we're going to resubmit that as well, so you guys can compare those numbers. And Roger, I don't know if you want to make even a comparison chart with this chart, and you put them side by side on the page. Maybe that'll help, just so people can look at it. Other than that, is there something else you guys would like to add before I go to the Q&A?
No, I think we're good. Just keeping in mind that every vote is important. Voting already opened. It closes Monday, August 27th. I mean, a vote in Atlanta has just as much power as a vote in Dallas, as in Midway. Like, if you guys are watching this, like, your vote counts as much as anybody else's. And, whichever way you're voting, we want you guys to vote. I want you to make an informed decision, look at everything that's being offered, and at the end of the day, you got to do what's right for you. But, I mean, just educate yourself on everything that's in this contract, because if this vote does go through, this is what we'll be living under for the duration. And you guys know how long this contract has taken, and we can expect the next one to probably take the same thing. I know maintenance got something in their contract where they can have an opening in their contract and they can open discussions before theirs is even finished. We don't have anything like that, so we can expect this next one to drag out as well.
Right on.
I concur.
Very well said. Jeff, you got anything?
Well, I was going to say the same thing. We asked to get this contract opened up early on the next one, and they said no. So
right.
I don't know why. They enjoyed it. They really do.
Well, maybe something that we have, maybe a language we can get in there that forces them. Yeah, I know several of the groups on property have done that, where they've tried to negotiate language to get early openers.
1 year. Yeah, 1 year early. That's all we want.
Yeah, we definitely need to address that. Okay, I'm going to... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if I'm correct, I think the last contract before this, they had an early open, didn't they? They met with you guys.
Yeah, I remember they I think they filed. I think that was right back with Roush. I believe he filed for the Section 6 early, but I don't know if they actually got it to the table early. Well, Roger was part of that.
Right. Roger, how did that work out?
Well, we had an early open on this one, so we started 6 months early.
Oh, there you go.
So that's actually in our contract right now.
Yeah, but they flat out said no to us this time when we asked them. So.
All right, so okay, so I'm gonna move on to Q&A, and if you guys have anything to add from what I answer, then just let me know, and you guys can speak on it. I think we've got, it looks like about 15 to 20 questions. And I've got that number posted if you guys want to text any more questions while we're going through these. The first question we had was, it says, first it reads that we are losing a birthday holiday. Am I reading that incorrectly? That would be incorrect. We didn't change anything with the birthday holiday. It still stipulates the birthday holiday is, so I think where the confusion came from is the language in the holiday language where it says what we moved the holiday pay itself to be the day after the holiday. So what was happening is, and the company asked for that because in maintenance they just move it forward versus moving it backwards. So in our contract we move the holiday to the previous day if it falls on your first day off, and then the second day it moves forward on the second day off. But so that's the only language we changed. But if you look at the first section of that where it talks about your birthday holiday is still 2 days. So no, we didn't lose any birthday holiday. The second, international road trips, for those will be forever lost, it looks like. Yes, unless we negotiated another, if we negotiated another time to get international language back. Yes, currently there's no requirement for them to use us for international road trips. Now, it doesn't say we don't get them. It just means that they're not required. It's kind of like the MRO facilities now where they can put someone there, but they don't have to. So most likely they probably won't be using us for international. The third question was about the hotshot road trips between Orlando and Tampa. They have taken out the language, so we can assume those are lost. Yes, those hotshots between Atlanta and Orlando are gone. In this TA, they've been scratched out and will no longer perform that work. The fourth was what's to stop the company from applying international road trip language to all road trips. There's no change in our language for domestic road trips. We've seen no change. We've seen no change. Now, what would stop the company from doing it other than just our current language? We have to file a grievance and go through the grievance process. And you guys, if you've been here long enough, you've experienced a company. Nothing stops the company from doing anything. They just do it, and then we have to go through the grievance process and try to argue with them. But currently, we would do the first. We would have the right for those road trips locally, or whatever, downlines. Basically, pretty much what we normally focus on are the downlines, of course. But do you guys have anything to add to any of those yet? Okay. So the fifth, it says it seems they're strengthening the furlough language, considering Atlanta and Orlando can be realigned to fill bigger role in the future, which may be Baltimore stores or a base or whatever scenario. We just don't see yet. Maybe in the cards if the contract is passed. Having worked at US Air, they shut down San Diego and realigned to Charlotte and Pittsburgh. No warning, they just did it. We are working for a legacy airline now. Anything is possible. So we agree, anything's possible. You don't know what the company's going to do. That being said, some clarity on the furlough language. That change was proposed by the committee, and it was something that we found that in another CBA, or when we proposed it was in another CBA. And we felt it would be great to retain the 2 years flight privileges. That's the only change we made in the furlough language. It was just to add, we didn't have that 2-year ability to use flight privileges if we got furloughed. So we thought, man, that's another contract. What if something did happen and we did get furloughed? We maybe 2 years being able to hop on a plane and maybe even just going for job interviews or whatever we decided to do. But at least we'd have 2 years of flight privileges to do that. So that change was proposed by us. The 6, it says all future line stations. Current language on the protection of the line stations still stands. We do need to secure the area of the CBA but was not pushed. Negotiations, like a lot of things, these were things that were put off. And I think what the question is about the line stations is the fact that if there's not someone there, they can just come in and do our job. But all that language, we did bring that up in negotiations. Nothing transpired to that. And some of these things that, as we go over them, if those are an important thing, if this proposal gets voted down, there'll be another survey, and those are some items that you would need to definitely put in the survey, that those are reported issues as far as line stations being locked down and other people not performing our task and things like that. So, and then future line stations, as far as we personally think that places like Kansas City definitely needs a line material specialist there, but nothing forces the company to do it. And kind of on that, the second part of that, well, it's the next question, but it kind of speak on that as well. Hawaii is a possible line station. Where would we stand in the contract? The language isn't. There's no language that was adjusted to not change Hawaii to be a line station. But once again, it's like Kansas City and St. Louis. Currently, we don't have a material specialist there to do the work. They're just utilizing their own people, mechanics doing our job or whatever. We send a guy down there to throw some parts on the shelf occasionally, but we do twice a month out of Dallas. We send someone to Kansas City, but nothing in the contract makes the company put a material specialist there. So I don't know what that would look like if we negotiated language that would fix that. But once again, if that's something that we could discuss in mediation and try to see if we couldn't get to a resolution on that. I think we would all entertain that idea for sure. Especially when Hawaii's not an if, it's when, because we're going to Hawaii. So the eighth question, it says it looks like OTCS is headed out of the door for a new system. I know for the last 3 years of negotiations, there's been discussion with the reps of, they had this software and they came out and did a presentation to us and showed us this program that they were wanting us to get involved in, and that would replace a lot of things like day trades, floating holiday requests, and bidding. It would all be done digitally, and I believe that was even possibly OTCS. But as far as I know, and I don't know if the other guys can speak on it, as far as last I heard, that program was put on a shelf because it couldn't. They wanted a program that they could just blanketly just throw over every covered work group, and every one of our contracts is a little different, so they couldn't just put one blanket program. So it's going to be way more expensive trying to modify this program to work with each group. So that's kind of, from my last I heard, it's been shelved. Now I don't know if they're working on something else now or something. I don't know. As far as just OTCS, I haven't heard anything of just replacing OTCS. Like I say, just that one system. The ninth question was, it says super floaters are dead under this contract. Vacation days require at least 8 hours notice. Yes, vacation requests require at least 8 hours notice in this proposal. The current language, it says 24 hours notice, but it says you should give 24-hour notice. We recently had a system board ruling that said you're not forced to give the 24-hour notice. If it falls in less than a 24-hour notice, there will be other considerations taken into the fact that there are vacation days available. There's nobody out. But if it's a busy day that day, the dock's full, warehouse is full, they may not give it. But they aren't going to deny it just on the grounds of the 24-hour notice any longer. That being said, we met with Bill on Wednesday, and he said the way he worded it was that for our floating holidays, it says adequate notice will be given. But he said be prepared that the company is going to define what adequate notice looks like in moving forward. So once again, that's going to force us into a grievance process and going to system board trying to argue the fact that we're being denied floating holiday requests now because they're not giving adequate notice. So it's going to be one of those things that, once again, the company can always do what they're going to do, and we have to fight that. But that looks like something that's going to change, is the floating holidays, and that's not in our not in the proposal they put out. They didn't change any language, but he's saying that they're going to start administering different rules. So I don't know what that looks like. I just know that's coming. The 10th question, it says 10th and 11th. What should we expect if it passes? What should we expect if it fails? So if this offer passes, it'll immediately be implemented. I mean, we honor the new agreement. That's going to be what becomes our new contract. GSE language will be worked out at a later date between the company and the union. Dave Bourne said, and if you guys pulled up those letters, Dave Bourne's his exact wording was, we will work with the company to create an implementation LOA that will delineate all aspects required for implementation. So if it gets voted in, I guess the company and the union will sit down and figure out what this is going to look like. But yeah, we immediately fall into that process, and that's where we're at. Now, if it gets voted down, he also said in his letter that we immediately file for mediation. His words on that was we will immediately file for mediation with the National Mediation Board and begin the process of government supervised mediation sessions with the company. So I think the union's committed to at least taking us to mediation if we vote this down this time. Where last time I think we were promised mediation and then they wanted to work out a quick deal. So
I just want to touch on that for a second because I see there's some confusion when people are saying that this is what is a last and final offer from Southwest Maine. That doesn't mean like, oh, if you don't take this offer that you're looking for a job or something like that. You would still be held responsible under the current contract, and that would still be in position for this whole time that we're in mediation. You wouldn't be out of a contract. You wouldn't be not covered. This last and final offer is just the last and final offer before we go to mediation. I just want to clarify that because I've heard some questions about that, like what does that actually mean? You will still be under the terms of your current contract until we have a new contract, basically.
Right. The Railroad Labor Act actually says that we stay under our agreement. We don't have a contract that expires. We have a contract that has an amendable date, and that just means that we can go in and amend it and make changes in what we're doing right now in negotiations. But our contract never expires. It stays indefinitely until we get a new contract. So yeah, we would fall under the old contract until that time. So going to mediation is not going to force us to not have a job or anything like that. And we just go through mediation and we work out until we figure out where we can get to a common ground. Thanks, Anthony. Okay, so the next question, was that all you had on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. On the next one, it says after we vote this offer down, can we negotiate? Can our negotiating committee please work on? Not sure if you're already working on it, but getting Atlanta and Orlando to become a maintenance base. So I'll speak on that. I just said the simple answer would be we've discussed that in direct negotiations already. It's definitely been on topic for a while. One of the things that scares me in the current offer with that language is that it allows a company to outline and create what they're going to do. If whether it's a maintenance base or not, they're creating what they're going to allow as bid positions. And when we explain that, the company suggests in order to be considered a maintenance base is at least a C check or above would need to be in that station. So currently in Orlando and Atlanta, they're only doing like MELs and planning items on RONs, etc. They don't perform any C checks or any heavy checks at all. But the language dictates this not TA. The language in this proposal dictates the ability to create certain bids in Atlanta and Orlando. So even if C check later is moved to Atlanta and Orlando, they still won't benefit from being a maintenance base because the CBA dictates where it says their bid positions are what they have. So I don't think the language is clear enough to ever call them a maintenance base at this point because the language says they're allocated the one tool room guy or the one guy here. So you start dictating the contract in the future. I think will dictate what stations get what instead of being instead of becoming a maintenance base or not. I don't think that matters anymore. Now that's my personal view of the way that language is written. If you guys want to speak up on any of that.
The scary part is also that annual review part because we're having trouble getting bid locations on all three shifts where that wouldn't be a problem. But now we've even gone to grievances and gone to system boards where they're becoming deadlocked or withdrawn because the contractual language now says that they don't have to staff these positions on all 3 shifts. And the company's challenging this and using this, and our union's been backing down to this. So if they have to annual review something, I mean, we're getting these things agreed to where it's a tool room location here or a staging or kitting line here. And the annual review, I mean, there's nothing to say that they can't annual review it and say, oh yeah, we thought we needed 3, now we only need 1, and the contract says we only have to send 1 person per 24 hours. I mean, there's a lot of future ramifications that we all have to, consider in our vote and really read through this contract and what it states, because the company is always going to go back to the wording and say, no, this is what it states, this is what you agreed to. So just look through the entire thing. I know it's a chore, I know people don't like going through page by page, but seriously, this is not something that the committee agreed to. There's stuff that we still have to go through because we don't know what this is. This is just a final offer that we haven't seen until we got it mailed to our house. This is all working on Southwest terms now. This is Southwest offer. There could be stuff in here that we've even missed. So just, like I said, read through it, because if this is something that goes through, this is what we're going to be held under and held responsible for.
Yeah, perfect example of what you said. As I'm telling anyone that went to the road show, you guys heard the union explain that annual review only meant to add. They said they had clarification from the company. It only meant to add. When we met with the company last, the company said no. They did not want to stipulate anything in the contract. The language says what it says, and it could be to add or delete. That was their last wording. Even though they told Chris and Paul that no, we agree, this is just to add, and then they changed it. So even that wasn't even a trust. So they went back on that. Hey, Roger, are you still with us?
Yeah, still here.
Hey, I'm going to read this question. This is the one that I was going to let you handle. And then I've got a few more questions after this that have been sent in. This question, it says, there are different pay scales shown. Some are showing grandfathered and non-grandfathered. I'm hoping we answered that part already. It says, can you help clarify which is the one that we are being offered and which one of the committee proposed? And again, I think we did explain that already. It says, honestly, I can't see how I'll be making $72,000 more in the next 5 years like they are suggesting. Do you want to speak on that slide? I'll pull it up.
So the first part of the question, if you look at on my chart, if it says IBT, that was our proposal. If you see FWA, that was the company. So that should clarify which one is which.
Right. So okay. So I have the two pages. Sorry, man. So page 15, if anybody wants to look, it's page 15 and page 16 is the IBT pay scale.
Yes, I put the IBT for the last part. So the other part of the question that was asking about the 72,000. So I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be making $72,000 more annually than next year, but I took the start that the company gave us, showing what an employee. Look here.
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
It's page 6 with the green line.
Yep.
Southwest also increase individual employees. So looking at that, I put the employees for some of the, not all of them, but just some of the groups. I did what they said on the bottom, based on 2080 annual hours, progressively moving through the current scale and the company scale. So a 4-year employee, I came up with the difference between, so on the scale he's going to make now, if the current contract, I have him making $200,300. On the new scale, he'll make $247,291, a difference of $46,987 in 2010. So I did a 6-year person, 6 years of service, in the old scale, or the current scale, $236,288. And on the new scale, he'll be making, and that's if his year started with when this thing goes into effect, if it goes into effect, $293,654. And on a 6-year employee, that comes up the difference of $57,366. They're saying that at 6 years going to have 71,000. My numbers don't show that. So I went to the 8-year employee, and I did here too currently. Even with getting the 8-year employee is not going to be on grandfather, so I actually gave him grandfather pay also, and he comes up making $259,355, and on the new scale, going down through the steps, he would make $320,000. That's a difference of $61,568. So it's about $10,000 off of what the company had. I did a 15-year employee. His base rate, current rate, would be $279,760, and that's for 5 years. And his new rate with
Hang on, Roger. Someone's playing music.
$46,924. So I did the 2 years, and the difference that I got with him was closer. It's $36,171 is the difference. And then the lead, I did the lead topped out. The lead topped out on the current rate. He'd make $295,256. The new scale, he'd make $346,008. That's a difference of $50,752. Now, a lead that's 8 years of service, he's going to make $346,008. And current, if he were to stay on the current chart, he would make $283,816. That's a difference of $62,192. So the chart doesn't take a lot of things into effect, I guess. And then but as far as the top outs for 6 and 8, 4 was even off 10,000. So I'm missing the $10,000 variation, and I don't know where they got that from. But I hope that answered the question that the person had. You're not going to be making $72,000 more a year. They're saying that that's going to be over 5 years.
Right on. And we'll also keep this open as far as if you do submit more questions, we can try to maybe answer them underneath the video once this video is posted or archived for you guys to view later. Okay, I'm going to move on to some more questions. Now these questions I don't have. They came in this morning. I haven't had an opportunity to. We haven't had an opportunity to go through them and answer all of them, but hopefully we can get through them pretty quickly. The first one was. If the proposal gets approved, can the company hire part-time and/or contract people? No, we didn't get anything with contract language in our part-time language in our contract. So no, there's no part-time employees. Why is GSE so important to some? I'm not sure if that question is directed as why is it important to some material specialists. All work should be important to all material specialists. I get even if your station may not have GSE, it may not be as important, but it really should be always important because one day you might do that job. But we never know about that. Now, why it's important to the company, I'm not really sure. I know there's talk of that there's a contract between the company and Napa while they're trying to get it done or whatever. In my opinion, I don't think it's as important to the company simply because they haven't, once again, I'll say this from my opinion, they haven't proposed enough money that I feel is worthy of giving away GSE. So if it was something serious the company really, really needed, I believe they would have taken even a proposal that was submitted by the committee last time that was reasonable. They would have accepted that if GSE in fact was that important. So but we don't know. I mean, I can't answer that question as far as how important it is to the company or not. They may be just thinking that they can get this done easy. The next question was, will there be a shift differential? Yeah, the shift differential is still in there, still the same. We didn't increase the shift differential, did we, Roger? I think it stayed the same, correct?
No, we did not.
Right.
There are other work groups that are working on changing their shift differential, but we did not.
Right. Yeah, there are. Yeah, we did not get an increase in our shift differential nor longevity. I think mechanics in their last offer just got more longevity, but we are taking ours away. So the company felt that. Okay, so the next thing, can they get rid of bid locations after the first year? We spoke on that language and what the company felt that language meant. Yes, they can turn around and it's to evaluate the need of that bid location, further to increase or decrease or whatever. That's up to them. Are we going to continue getting longevity pay? No, longevity is coming out of the contract in this proposal. What will the bonus be taxed at? Should be about 25%. And they're gonna, at the end of the year, of course, whatever your taxes are, everybody's going to follow different. But the tax itself should be taxed at 25%. If this passes, when will we get our bonus? We actually can't answer that question. It's not in any of the paperwork that they've supplied to us. Last go around, there was a date, or at least a time where it said when we would get that signing bonus. This time around, I haven't seen it. It says how much or what you can expect for a signing bonus, but it doesn't say when. So I guess when the company decides to send it out, I don't have. Is that about right, Roger?
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. There's no. I'm sure that they would need an amount of time to process it and figure it out. So
right.
I think 90 days was what the last thing was.
Right on. So we could guess and say 90 days, but again, since it's not spelled out, they may have a date in mind. It could be January next year. We don't know. There's no date. I'm sure that'll come out now. If we lose positions, can we fight to get them back next time? That's always an option. If you give away GSE now, you could go back in negotiations next time and try to go for it. Usually that doesn't happen. If you when you give something away, you give it away. There was a very good, a lot of work went into creating the sheet from the committee that lists all the items that we've given away over time, and none of those items have ever come back. So usually when you give up an item like that, it's pretty much gone. You can expect that it's not coming back. It says, if this passes, won't we be the highest paid in the industry? Currently, if you look at the numbers, so if you look at the distant numbers out, 2023, 2022, that top out number, yes, that would be the highest in the industry today. But keep in mind, all these other work groups are all these other the other carriers are going to negotiations as well, and they will have another offer that will put them beyond ours. Of course, everybody seeks the highest, so that will change. By the time we reach that number, we won't. There's a good chance we won't be, because the numbers they will have negotiated new. Is going to mediation a good thing? That's kind of a hard question to answer, because we don't know what mediation does and how long we're going to be in mediation. It's very hard to tell. As far as it would be a guessing game. Mediation is good because we're going to have a neutral mediator sitting in a room with us to be able to negotiate with the company. But additionally, it kind of puts a little more power in the negotiating committee to be able to sit across from the company and negotiate items with a little less involvement from the IBT. The IBT, the way negotiations have went over the last couple of years have been a little different. Where they kind of meet with the IBT and then kind of get with us and let us know what the company's saying. Where this puts us in front of the company and we can direct negotiate with the company. So I think mediation would be a good process. But again, it's hard for me to say how that's going to look because we don't know. Should we think about informational picketing? By all means, if this gets voted down, once again, probably get with the local and figure out what's a good time to start informational picketing. When we go to mediation, maybe informational picketing, the date of mediation, stuff like that. That's what we did last contract, something like that. And for anybody unfamiliar with informational picketing, all that means is on your day off, if you want to donate a little bit of time, come out, hold a sign in front of the airport or wherever we decide to meet, things like that. We went a lot of us went with the pilots when they were doing theirs. We also went with AMFA when they did theirs and held signs. That's all it is, just holding signs. And getting other work groups to come out and support you and hold a sign with you, showing that they back you, that kind of thing. Is there a chance of getting retro, or is that completely off the table? Currently, no work group has gotten retro. The pilots are the ones that got the closest thing to retro, and I guess the way the pilots worded it is their signing bonus was equal to what they would have lost in retro. Full retros, as far as a company's mind, is off the table, but that doesn't mean you don't get full retro. That just means it's not been negotiated. Everything's a negotiable item, and we have not negotiated full retro yet. So, but once again, there's a lot of things that need to be negotiated. So, but I would never say it's off the table. For the company right now, it's off the table. They don't want to offer it. They're only offering a signing bonus. Why is the union going to stations without our reps? I think what the union's doing right now is they're kind of doing what the company's doing as well. They're going to the stations and just kind of telling you about the contract and how much you're going to make, and they didn't want to do a roadshow because what we were told from the union was that since this is not an agreement, this is just a proposal from the company, and that the union didn't want to back it. But I have heard from the other stations that the union's coming out and essentially backing it because they're telling you why you should really vote this in. If you guys read an email I posted yesterday, none of your business agents, none of your executive officers at the local, your principal officers, the Dave Bourne himself, none of those guys will work a day under this agreement. So they don't have a right to tell you what it is or it isn't. You look at it and you make the decision if it is or isn't worth what you are willing to put a yes or no vote to. So when does voting end? Voting ends 27th, so August 27th you have to have your vote in. And when will we get the results of the vote? The results should be posted. Last time they were posted the day of, so we should have those that same day, I hope. Now that's out of our control. The union's handling that. It's going to the it's actually handled on a third party. So as soon as they get those numbers tallied, they'll get them back to us. It says, are you and the other reps planning on going to other stations to talk? Once again, we were told we're not doing a road show. The union didn't want to spend money putting anyone in any of the stations because they didn't feel that we should be pushing this. That this was just a last offer from the company, and since the union didn't back it, they didn't want us out at these stations. So no, we're not doing a road show like that. But again, I heard the union and the company are both doing that for you to go and try to talk to you about the contract. So just the committee's not doing it. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Did we get the online, or did we vote online, or did we mail in the packet? It'll be online voting, and like I say, they should be. They'll send you a packet in the mail that's going to have your information to vote online. So that's what that's going to look like. Okay, so I got through all those questions. Did you guys have anything to add before I get to? There's a few more questions that just came in.
The other thing I wanted to touch on, where it talks about the union going to certain places, I actually experienced that in Chicago. The other business agent went in the break room and closed the door to talk to two other people, and I found that kind of suspicious. But like I said, I think everybody has the right to and should get knowledge about what you're actually voting on, and you can believe what you hear here, you can believe what you hear from your business agent, but everything you're voting on is in the package, man. It's all in the writing. That's pretty much. Then you got to see how the company's going to interpret that, and how you interpret that might not be the same thing. And you got to understand when you're taking these grievances to system board that you're always going to have to prove your case to the system board. You're always going to be up against it. So what's in black and white, you have to see what that really means, and if it can be misinterpreted in another way, it probably will be. The thing about us being 300 people, your committee that was voted on to be in that thing and look for your best offers, we decided not to bring this to the table. We didn't think that this was good enough. I'll just be honest and frank about that. We didn't think it was good enough. And the problem is that should have went to mediation right there. The problem is we're only 300 people. This union only gets 300 whatever monthly dues from us, and they're making a business decision. in my opinion, to not go straight to mediation. They feel like they're throwing their union dues away for a couple months if they go to mediation. Mediation is a costly process for the company and our union, and with us only being 300 people, they're not making as much on us as they are the companies that they have 3,000 people or 5,000 people. So for them, this seems more like a business decision, because in all honesty, the people that were in that room should have been able to say, this isn't good enough, let's go to mediation, let's try to get our guys a better deal. They overruled us, and you guys have your chance to vote. You guys should let your voices be heard.
Very well said, Anthony. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna move on to a few more of these questions. Try to get through them. I know we've had guys on for almost an hour now. If this contract is voted down, what, if anything, will be addressed about the future pay freezes when a contract is not settled 5 years after its expiration? I've mentioned it before. I personally think that there needs to be language in the contract that secures a 3% raise outside of the contract once this contract is amendable. If the company and the union or whatever, if we get drug into negotiations for the next 4 years, we should be getting 3% raises every year outside of that. I believe, now I haven't seen it, I believe the pilots got that in their language, that they get a secured raise even if the contract is out. So they're not losing money every year because they don't have a contract. That's unfair. No one at headquarters is losing 3% raises every year. Everyone should be getting a 3% raise. Let me see. It says, I would like to know why Atlanta was not pushed harder in negotiations to become a base station, Orlando as well. We did talk about that. We did talk. We mentioned it. We did try to address it, and I honestly, it's one of those things I don't believe the company was interested in addressing outside of mediation. They don't feel that they have to call anyone a maintenance base. And like I say, to speak on that again, this language in this proposal does just the opposite. And I don't believe Atlanta and Orlando would ever become a maintenance base under this current proposal, just because the way the language dictates what bid position you're going to get. The second question from this is, did they get rid of the fence in the contract for Atlanta and Orlando? What that fence agreement was an agreement that was created between the IBT and the company. Where basically it was arbitrated. An arbitrator ruled that there had to be a fence agreement put up, and if you look in the failed TA, they've included it in the bottom if you want to read through the fence agreement. What that does, it's station protection in Atlanta and Orlando. Basically, if you're an Atlanta employee, you have your 3 extra years in Atlanta only. Correct me if I'm wrong. Roger, have you read this? The arbitrator's ruling on that?
Yes. Well, it's been a long time, but I understand what the concept is.
You can briefly explain it?
I have to get back. I mean, the 3 years were added to, like you said, I'm pretty supposed to make sure that if anybody came in there, they wouldn't bump the individuals in Orlando and Atlanta.
Right.
They would have 3 years on them.
And then they lose that seniority if they bid into a station that's outside, that's been a Southwest station. Then if those guys bid out, they lose those 3 years. They fall behind a Southwest employee. And it's created some distension. And I've read in the emails where some of the guys are upset about that fence agreement. That if they feel like that drives a wedge between Southwest and AirTran employees or ex-AirTran employees. I don't believe that was the intention. I personally wasn't part of this arbitration, nor had anything to do with the ruling, nor was I on the SLI, the seniority list integration. I had nothing to do with any of this agreement. When I spoke to Chris about it, Chris didn't like it anyway. Chris said this shouldn't have been in there to begin with, but it was an arbitrator's ruling. The only way this would be ever taken care of, so someone said you can't get it removed. Never say never. The only way this would be addressed is if we were to go into mediation, we voted this proposal down, we go into mediation, when we do a survey, I would urge every guy in Atlanta and Orlando to fill out that survey and make that a priority. Your number one priority should be to get rid of this. If there's 40 plus individuals wanting to remove this, we should be one group. I mean, I have no beef with being one union. We should be one seniority list. No losing years going to stations. That shouldn't happen. But once again, that's my opinion speaking on it. But as far as it has not been addressed, it is in that will be included in this proposal. They've made sure to add that at the bottom of this. If this gets voted in, that'll be in the contract. That language will. So you will continue to have the fence agreement. Says, what about retro? We spoke on that. I believe. Well, no, we haven't actually spoke on that. Retro will not be retro. It will just be a 25% signing bonus of last year's salary. That's weird. We haven't talked about retro at all. But yeah, so it's just a signing bonus. So if you look at what you made last year, 2017, 25% of that will be paid to you as a signing bonus if you voted this proposal in. And again, what we said, it's taxed at 25%. So. No full retro. Says, will the mediation meeting be public for us to view or private like other meetings have been in the past? Mediation would be just like negotiations. It's just you have a third party in there, a neutral, that sits in the same room, but it's that's Teamsters negotiations process is closed negotiations. They don't negotiate publicly. Honestly, AMPA is the only union I've ever known that negotiates publicly. They allow a certain number of individuals to be able to witness their negotiations, but that's just AMPA. I've only been part of TWU and I've been part of Teamsters, and neither of those guys have open negotiations. So yes, it would still be private, just like negotiations are today. It's just that we would have a mediator sitting in there with us. Helping us through the process. So
Hey Joey.
Yeah.
I was just to say, can we go back to the bonus thing? I just want to make sure that everybody understands that the 25% that you're getting paid on this year, and play the devil's advocate here, the company's thinking that you made more money this year than you did the last 4 years. And they're giving you the 5%. If you divide it up by the 5 years we've been out, they're giving you 5% a year increase on that. Now, if you worked a lot of overtime in the first 4 years, you're going to be out. That's going to be something. If you've been working less, then you definitely, or you're out on medical leave or something like that, then that's going to be an issue with you. And I'm sure there are a few employees that's going to be an issue for. But I just want to make sure that we pointed out that the 5% a year is where the company came up with the 25%.
Right on. Another question I had just said, make sure to mention about the voting ends 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific. I haven't received my packet yet, so I don't know when the I don't know when the vote is. What I just know it's 27th, but I haven't gotten my packet yet, so I don't know that information. But I guess someone wanted to make sure we shared that. Then we had a question about why aren't we fighting for retro? Why is the union not fighting for it? I think the union just kind of backed off of it because no other work group got it, and the company told them point blank that we weren't, that we're not accepting it. It's one of those things again. Would need to be pushed in mediation. If we want full retro, that would be at the top of the list. When you send in those surveys, this is what we demand, full retro. Like I say, I'm one of those people that never say never. I mean, you can get if you fight hard enough for it, you can get it. One of the last things I wanted to point out, and if you guys have anything to add after that, we can add that. That was the last of the questions. I just want to go back and look. If you guys look at what 3% look like, if you had gotten a 3% raise every year, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, this year, 2018, this would be the scale. And these are the numbers that these are the numbers that you are owed. So there's no way to say that you're not owed that money. That's your money. It's already your money. It should be your money. So what the company is offering is something that falls below that, which means that they're taking money from you. If you want to think about taking money from you or taking money from your family, this is money for you. It's money that's owed to you. It's money for your family. So that's very important to me. When I look at those numbers, that's very important to me. A topped-out material specialist would be at 3021, but he also, when you add longevity, so if you have a guy that's been here 20 years, he should be making 3221. The company's offer of date of ratification 2959 falls very short of that, and that's unacceptable to me. But you can look at every step on this. A new hire, the first 6 months at 1291. He's already supposed to be at 1327. So everyone loses money in this agreement, regardless of where you're at in the scale. If you look at the numbers, I mean, that's personally unacceptable. Beyond the GSE piece, beyond the full retro, beyond everything else, the money itself's not even there. There's not enough money that clarifies it where we should be at. We have to either accept that we're going to lose money, or we're going to fight, and that's going to be up to you guys. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add on any of these slides or want me to put up?
I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I'm just, like I said, if people have questions, man, there's a variety of resources to, talk to your coworkers, talk to your union stewards. I mean, you don't have to take everybody's word for it. Look at the package and the information for yourself. But, I mean, if you want people's opinions, you guys are allowed to talk about this stuff on your breaks and, wherever you need to find resources from. I mean, like I said, just make an informed vote when you're voting. Everybody has a vote to make for their own personal reasons, for what's best for them and their family, but be educated about it. Know what you are voting for or what you are voting against.
Right on. Roger, you didn't have anything else? What about Jeff?
No, I'm good. You guys are well said. Very well said. How many people are online listening,
I have no idea. I would just like to apologize for all the viewers. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. It's definitely the first time I've ever put on anything like this. Hopefully you guys were patient enough and got through it. Like what was said, if you guys have any questions, you can email us, you can text us, call us. I'll be happy to help answer any questions you guys have, regardless of judgmental. If you guys have any questions or need clarification on something, definitely let us know. I'll be sure to post a video when we get done editing this page. We'll get the correct link up for the newest for the updated stat sheet that we created, and we'll get it all online for you guys. I'd like to thank everyone for their time and the questions, and hopefully we got through this okay.
All right, boys. Have a good weekend.
All right.
All right.
You guys have a good one.